Good. So we're going to do polynomial and rational inequalities. An inequality is the same thing as an equation, except instead of an equal sign, you're going to have a greater than, a less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Are we all together? Okay. So what we're going to do is start it out the same way. And so for this one, you would need to evacuate. So you're going to subtract the 3 over so that it doesn't equal 0, but that you have 0 on the one side. So you treat it the same sort of in the beginning. We are going to do something different, like, partway through the problem, but it starts out the same. Okay. And then what would you do with that since you have a trinomial? Factor. Good. So draw your 2 sets of parentheses. The most common mistake I get with these, and I totally get why it happens, just be careful, is that people will accidentally turn the inequality into an equal sign. And I get that because we're so used to writing equals. Just try to be like really vigilant and don't let that happen. All right, so 2x squared is going to split 2x and 1x. I think this is one of those ones where the number actually works both ways, but the symbols only work one way. The 2's and the 3's, that happens a lot with. I think we're going to need to put the 3 here and the 1 here. Let me see if I'm right. Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's supposed to be minus 1.
2?
No, she's right.
2x minus 1.
It's 2x minus 1x plus 3.
Hold on.
Yeah.
If I have 2x here and 3x here, it is wrong because I would have to add 2x plus 3x to get 5x, but what's the problem?
Negative.
There's a negative, so I need one of them to be negative. So let me flip them around. We'll put the 1 here and the 3 here. Now let's see. Now what do the outsides give you? 6x, I'm going to make that positive. Positive 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 gives you 5. And now the symbols work out. That happens with the 2's and the 3's a lot. I had a feeling I was going to have. Actually, you know what? I'm happy I did it wrong and fixed it so I could show you like why it works one way but not the other way. Now, if this was an equal sign, you would just get your 2 answers and be done. What would your 2 answers be? 1/2 and -3. But if we want it to be greater than 0, it's a little bit more complicated than that. We're going to make number lines. So you're going to make a number line for your 2x minus 1 and a number line for your x plus 3. If you've seen number lines before, cool. If not, I'm going to explain it to you. So everybody just hold on. And those answers that we just talked about, what they're called the zeros, are what's going to go on your number line. Now I'm going to put -3 here on this number line and then 1/2 here. Why did I put them like that? Like, why did I space them? Well, it's because -3 is smaller than 1/2. Like, they need to go smallest to biggest because they're number lines. Do you follow what I'm saying here? Okay. Now we're going to pick test numbers. Just look at the top line. Give me a number smaller than 1/2 and don't overthink it. 0 is a good choice. If you plug 0 into this, do you get a positive or a negative result? Negative. I don't care what the answer actually is. Just is it positive? And I usually do the gladiator thing. Like, all right. So this side is going to be negative. Give me a number bigger than 1/2.
1.
1. If you plug 1 into this, and I don't care what it actually equals, but if you plug 1 into this, is it positive or is it negative?
Positive.
It's positive. Now I'm going to try and save you some work. If nothing weird happened, and you're probably like, what does she mean by weird? You're going to know because you're going to go, that was weird. Like there will be a negative or a squared or something's backwards. You'll catch it because you'll be like, that's weird. If nothing's weird, they will be negative and turn positive. So see how this one's just x plus 3, nothing weird happened? It's going to be negative until it gets to the place where it changes and then turn positive. Again, I'm just trying to save you some work. They will be negative and then turn positive. And doesn't that make sense? Like it's negative up until that number and then beyond that, above that, it would turn positive. Now I use a different color for this. You can use a different color if you want. I call these the little balloon strings. I put in little balloon strings around my numbers to slice my number line up. And then we're going to figure out what the overall sign of the whole thing is. So look at the first section that we divided this into. We have a negative times a negative. Do you see this? A negative times a negative would be positive. So that's the overall sign for the whole thing.
Can you repeat that again?
A negative times a negative for this first section. Good. So for the middle section, we have a negative times a positive, which would be negative. And then a positive times a positive is obviously positive. I did have one year someone tried to tell me that positives cancel out and make a negative. I don't know where that happened, but positive number times a positive number is a positive number. All right. Now, believe it or not, that all usually goes really well. Once we do a few of these, you're going to catch on and you're going to be like, okay, I got it. That usually goes really well. For some reason, writing the answer is the part that's always really hard for everybody. It comes back to this symbol. Does this mean greater than 0 or less than 0? Greater than. That means we want the positive sections. Okay? So this section, this positive one, is negative infinity to negative 3. And then I'm going to put union. And then how would I write this other positive section that I have here? 1/2 to infinity. These are the ones we want, these positive ones. Why did I use parentheses and not brackets? Because, well, it comes back to this symbol. What does this symbol not have with it? It doesn't have the equal to, so we want the parentheses. If it had the equal to, then we would put brackets, okay, but not on the infinities. All right, let's try it again. This one I threw on here as a flashback to our last unit. I need to pull up Desmos. Hold on, we're going to need a calculator for this one. So let me come over here. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and type that in. So it is x to the third. Oh, 2x to the third. Thank you. Typing it correctly would help. Minus 3x squared minus 32x plus 48. It wasn't that long ago that we did this. Where did you click when you took your calculator part of that test? Where did you click? Yep. Here's our first one, -4. So put -4 in the little box off to the side. I did this so we could review our synthetic division. Is our countdown in order? Yes. So 2, -3, -32, 48. What is the remainder going to be? 0. Perfect. Go find it. It'll be 0. Perfect. You guys are wonderful. Did you find it already? I didn't
Is
even
that
get
what
there.
it should be or what it will be?
That is what it will be. What did I messed something up? Hold on. Oh, that's a positive 44. I was like, wait, mine is not coming out right. What is that? 12? -48, 0. There we go. I had a little, I done goofed in mine. I missed a negative sign. I figured it out though, because I knew it was going to come out to 0. All right, and then we're going to put our x's back in. So 2x squared minus 11x plus 12. Well, I'm not even there yet. We have to factor it apart. We're not to the numbered lines yet. Go ahead.
What is this -4 greater than or equal to? You divide by -4.
You can't change this symbol. That symbol is not going to change.
Okay.
We didn't divide by a negative. We're really just factoring. Also, that factor would be x plus 4. You know, that's not what we're doing here. We're just trying to factor it all apart. All right, so this is going to split 2x and 1x. 12, oh gosh, we have a lot of choices. Probably 3 and 4 or 2 and 6. I think it's going to be 3 and 4. I think it's 3 and 4. Let's see if I'm right. What do the outsides give us? 8x, good job. And the insides, 3. 8 and 3 makes 11. I need them both negative. And to verify that, a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, now we're ready to make our number lines. We're going to make one for the 2x minus 3. We're going to make one for the x minus 4. And then there's a third one.
Negative.
Good. Now that factor, and I already said it though, that factor would actually be x plus 4. Good job. It feels like, does anyone like play an instrument? Do you know like the musical staff? Like if you end up with like a whole bunch of lines, I always feel like that's what it starts to look like. All right, now we have to get our zeros on there in order. They have to go smallest to biggest because it's a number line. let's see, what would this one be?
Yeah.
3/2, which is 1.5. This one would be +4, good, and this one would be -4. Okay, so yeah, exactly. What makes it 0? So -4 and then 3/2 and then +4. Do you see how I made them go in order? Like, do you see how I did that?
Yeah.
Like smallest to biggest. Now, did anything weird happen? And by that, I mean, is there a negative? Is anything backwards? Was anything? No, we didn't go, hey, that's weird. Like, I promise you'll catch it. You will go, hey, that's weird. Nothing weird happened. They will be negative until they get to their number, their 0, and then turn positive. And again, I am just trying to save you some work there. Okay. So you're going to put negatives until they get to the number on their number line, and then they will turn positive. Yippee. And then we're going to draw in our little balloon strings. I mean, a balloon doesn't have a string coming out of the top of it, but that's just what I call them.
It's a special one.
It's a special balloon. And the point of that is so that you can figure out what the overall sign of the whole section is. So look at the first one. You have a negative times a negative times a negative, which would be negative. Good. Feels like we're talking about batteries too. That's the other thing I think of when I teach this. All right, here you have a negative times a negative times a positive. Positive. And are you seeing that they're going to switch? They're going to alternate. Again, if nothing weird happened, that's how it'll turn out. Yep. If nothing weird happened. I will do one that's a little bit weird. I wanted to give you some straightforward ones first. Now, again, believe it or not, that all usually goes really, really well. Okay. This is the step that gets people. It always comes back to this symbol. What does this mean? Less than or equal to 0. So we want the negative section. Less than or equal to 0. And we're going to use brackets as well, except on infinities. You can't have brackets on a positive or negative infinity. So how would I write this first section, this first negative section? To -4, good. So negative infinity to -4 with a bracket. Union. And then we have this negative section would be from where to where?
3/2.
3/2 to 4. Do you guys see that there? Correct. Yeah, the only one that you can't put a bracket on in that case is the negative infinity, because infinity is not a number. It's not a value of something, so you can't bracket it. I want you to look at what I did for number 3. We'll do that one and then I'll give you your brain break. Okay, stick with me. I made it parts A, B, C, and D. What do you notice? Yeah, they're all like, it's the same problem, but I just changed what about them? The sign, like the symbol, I just flipped it around. So we're only going to have to do the number line one time, which is kind of nice, right? So first, let's go ahead and factor this. Oh, and you're saying the answer already. X plus 1, X plus 1. Huh, that's weird. Do you see how I'm like, huh, that's weird?
Yeah.
Okay, how can you rewrite that? Square. Good. If you square something, it will always be positive. Good job. All right. So when we make our number line for our X plus 1 squared. Yeah, oh, hold on. I'm not there yet. I need to keep everybody together. What number is going to go on the number line? -1, but it will be positive all the time because if you square something, it is positive. To clarify though, this is positive everywhere except at what specific number? Because it's 0 there. Okay, now I did this on purpose for us to compare and contrast these. That's why I did this. All right. Yeah, that's, yeah, because see how there's a squared in there? You're like, huh, that's weird. All right. So greater than 0. It's greater than 0 all the time, except at -1 because it equals 0 there. So everybody is invited except negative. How do we write that? We want to invite everybody. Yeah, good. There is a union. It's negative infinity. It's -1. Good. We want to invite everybody except -1. It is a party that everyone comes to except -1. Because that's where it equals 0. Now this one, see how it's greater than or equal to? Hey, look, because I want you to understand. Greater than or equal to would be everybody. Everybody is invited to the party. That one includes the -1 because we stuck the equal to in there. Do you understand? Like,
Yeah.
I wanted us to compare and contrast. This one says less than 0. That would be negative. Is this negative anywhere? No, so no solution. That's a party that no one's at. That's an empty room. Yeah, not even the host is there. But hold on. Look at this one. No one. It's literally empty. This one says less than or equal to 0. So the only number invited to that party is -1. So there aren't any places where it's negative, but equal to 0 is at -1. So those are like the 4 ways it can turn out. So these ones are slightly different because they are rational. The root word of rational is ratio. It means fraction. The only extra thing, go ahead and set that aside, that you need to worry about with these are your troublemakers. Who is your troublemaker? Go ahead and set that aside. Who is your troublemaker for this one? -1. So listen, even though this symbol means brackets, you can't bracket a -1 because it is your troublemaker and you have to throw it out. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? All right, it only comes down to the brackets and parentheses. Now this one's all factored apart, so we can go ahead and make our number lines. We're going to make a number line for x - 3 and a number line for x + 1. Did anything weird happen?
No.
No, we didn't go, hey, that's weird. So where are your zeros going to be? Yeah, good. And I want the -1 to come before the 3 because counting. And so if nothing strange happened, they're going to be negative and then turn positive when they get to their 0. And we're going to draw in our little balloon strings and figure out the overall sign of the whole thing. So for the first section, we have a negative times a negative is positive. And then this section's negative, and then a positive times a positive is positive. Again, that all usually goes beautiful. Now we need to think about which sections are our answer. What does this symbol mean? Greater than or equal to means we want positives. We want these sections, and we want brackets, except for on -1. You can't bracket -1 because he's your troublemaker. All right. So this first section is going to be -infinity to -1. There's a parenthesis, union, and then what do we put for this positive section? A bracket on the 3 because it says equal to, and then infinity. So the only number we were able to bracket was the 3. We all go with y. You're being super quiet, so I'm just going to assume you understand. Tell me if you have a question. All right, we need to factor this one. How is the numerator going to factor? Good, it's x + 5 squared. Huh, that's weird. There's a squared in there. Like when I say something weird happens, you're going to catch it because you're going to be like, huh, that's weird. All right, and then how about the denominator? Perfect. Maybe like when I'm done with the problem.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to make a number line for each of these. Our x + 5 squared, our x + 2, and our x - 2. So where are our zeros? Where is this one going to be? -5. I think that's going to be the first one, right? And then this one would be -2. This one would be +2. So what can I put the whole way across for the first number line? Yeah, positives. If it's squared, it's positive all the time. Plus, 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 plus.
So make the we just do 1 plus on each side.
Yeah, that comes down to personal preference at that point. All right, now these two, did anything weird happen? No, so they are going to be negative and then turn positive when they get to their 0. And then you're going to draw in your little balloon strings. And as a heads up, because something weird happened, we're not going to have that alternating feature. So just be careful. Yeah, so look, this first section, we have a positive times a negative times a negative. That's positive. Good. And then this section is also positive. And then a positive times a negative, be negative, and then this one is positive. Again, that all usually goes fine. Your answer comes down to this symbol. So what does this mean? Less than or equal to. So it means we want the negative sections, which is only one of them, and we want brackets. Ooh, which numbers can we not bracket though? You can't bracket -2 and +2 because those are your troublemakers. So actually, you're not going to have any brackets in this one because it's -2 to +2. Now you could have bracketed -5, but he didn't end up being part of the answer. We want the negative sections. So in theory, you could have put a bracket on -5, but he just didn't end up being part of the answer. Right.
I wouldn't be right that. I just put brackets on like
They're
5.
equal to 0. You know what? I've honestly never noticed that, and no one's ever brought it up. So no one's ever brought that up, and I've actually never noticed that. Technically, equal to 0 would be the -5. So we could do this. I've honestly never thought of that. That looks really weird, but just the -5. I have never caught that. Thank you. Gold star. Oh, that was you. Well, it's the same concept as this one. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the same concept as this. It's just you have that number and other stuff. Wow, I never caught that. Cool, thank you. I guess that's how you'd put it, just the bracket around the -5. That's such a weird situation. Interesting. I learned something new today. All right, splitting this apart, I'm just going to write right above it. And it's going to split into what?
X minus 4, X minus 1.
Yep. Perfect.
We split the bottom.
It doesn't split because there's not a squared. No, but that's weird. Do you know what I'm saying? You're not going to not catch the weird stuff. You're going to be like, that's weird. All right, so we're going to have a number line for our X minus 4, a number line for our X minus 1, and then a number line for our -X plus 3. That's weird because there's a negative out front. Again, you will catch it. If you're paying attention, you're going to be like, hey, that's weird. So let's see where our zeros would be because we have to get them in order. This one would be 4. This one would be 1. What would this one be? 3. Because if you plug 3 in there, do you see how you'll have -3 plus 3? 0. Okay, so in order, they would go 1, 3, 4. So the ones where nothing weird happened, they're going to be negative and then turn positive. For the other one, we'll pick a test number and just see what happens.
Fun.
Well, I was going to say, let's pick a number smaller than 3. So 2. If you plug 2 in for X, I don't need to know what it actually is, just is it positive or negative? You plug a 2 in there. Do you guys see how that would be positive? He's kind of just yelling out the answer. Everybody with me? Okay. No, I just want to make sure everybody's together. And then give me a number bigger than 3. 4, 5, 17 million. It doesn't really matter. If you plug 4 into this, negative. Go ahead and close the Chromebook. Now, what do you notice happened there? It's just switched, which should not be a surprise. Okay, so go ahead and draw in your balloon strings. And then we're going to figure out the overall sign for the whole thing. So for the first section, negative, negative, positive. It's positive. And then this one is going to alternate. And then what sections do you want? It comes back to this symbol. What does this mean? Less than. So which sections do we want? Less than means negatives. Now we don't actually need to worry about bracket parenthesis issues. Why not? It's not equal to. They're just all going to be parentheses. But your troublemaker would have been 3. Right? But these are all going to be parentheses. So, oh, wait. Because there's not an equal to, they're just all going to be parentheses. If it's supposed to be a bracket, but you have a troublemaker you have to throw out, that's where you kind of have to like worry about it. But if they're all parentheses, it just doesn't matter. They're all parentheses. So what would your first section be? 1 to 3, good. And then union, 4 to infinity, good. Now this one, I've saved the hardest one for last, all right? This one is difficult because you don't have 0 on one side. You're going to have to get 0 on one side, evacuate, before you can do anything else. So we're going to subtract this entire fraction over. And that's going to involve doing some algebra. We have to get a common denominator. Good, okay. Cool. It's not hard. It's just going to involve a little bit of work. Can you wait and let me teach it? I promise I'm going to explain every step. I swear I am. Okay. So this one has the x plus 1. It is missing the x minus 5. So you're multiplying it by the one it doesn't have. This one has the x minus 5. It's missing the x plus 1. Again, it's not hard. You're just going to have to do some distributing and combine like terms and do some algebra and all of that. All right, so if you distribute this 2, what do you get? It's good, 2x minus 10. Now you're not distributing a 3, but a negative 3 into there. So that would be minus 3, perfect. And then this is the most common mistake. People just put that, and it's right for the numerator, but they lose the entire denominator. You can't lose your other 2 factors there. So like when I'm grading it, because there's one like this on the test, I can only really give half credit because you lost half the problem. So just please try to remember to keep the denominator in them, right? So what would this numerator be? If we combine that together, what would that be? Negative x minus 13. Huh, that's weird. There's a negative in front. Do you see that? Like you're gonna catch it.
So you just have to plug in.
Yeah, or what you can do is, you know how usually they're negative and they turn positive? It's just gonna be positive and then turn negative. But you can always pick numbers to plug in. It's gonna be backwards, yeah. But you can always plug in test numbers if you're like, I just want to make sure. I try to give you those tricks to save you some work though, because these are long problems. So I'll try to like not cut corners, but let you skip some stuff if you can. All right, this one's going to be negative 1. This one's going to be 5. Gosh, what is that one? Is that negative 13? That's going to be negative 13 for that one. And then negative 1 and then 5. So the 2 like straightforward ones, they're going to be negative and then turn positive. And again, like the conversation we were just having, you can always pick a test number. I'm just doing that to try to save you some work because these are long problems. So I'm just trying to save you a little bit of hassle. And then this one, because it is backwards, it's going to be positive and then turn negative. You have some water. No? Okay, you can get some water when we're done with this. So drawing your little balloon strings. And what is your overall sign for the first section? Positive, good. Negative, positive, negative, like a battery. Hold on. There are no brackets, but let's pretend there were for a second. Who are the troublemakers that we'd have to kick out? Yeah, -1 and 5. Okay, now it's greater than 0. So which sections do we want? Positives. So how am I going to write this first one? And don't stop listening to me when I finish this because I want to go over one more thing. And then the other one, -1 to 5. And this is going to address a question that you were asking me earlier. If you want to write this down, cool. If you don't, just listen to me. Okay. I just wrote out one more, if you want to call it number 8 or whatever. Before you factor that, maybe just watch me do this. I just want you to understand because they do this on Delta Map. Before you factor this, you should get rid of what? The negative. So everything will just flip-flop its sign. Do you see how I did that?
Yeah.
But then what do you have to do? Because you were asking me about this earlier. You have to flip the symbol the other way. Okay. And then you would factor it and you would make your number lines and you would keep on going. But if you divide by a negative, just otherwise you will get the exact opposite of the correct answer is what will happen. Okay.